Cole Harrison sat alone in the botanical gardens of the Galactic Academy, reading from a tablet about alien plant life. The twin suns of Veloria were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. He liked this time of day. It was quiet. Most students had gone back to their rooms, and Cole could finally think without feeling like everyone was watching him. He was one of only 12 humans at the Academy. Earth had joined the galactic community just 20 years ago, and most alien species still thought of humans as primitive newcomers. Cole did not blame them. Compared to the Valorians, who had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, humans were like children taking their first steps. Cole came from a small town in Nebraska. His parents were farmers. They had never left Earth, and they probably never would. When Cole told them he had been accepted to study xenobiology at the most famous academy in the galaxy, his mother had cried for 3 days. His father had simply shaken his hand and told him to make them proud. That was 2 years ago. Now Cole was 22 years old, halfway through his studies, and still trying to figure out where he fit in this strange new world. The Valorians were beautiful and graceful. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with long limbs and skin that glowed with soft light. Their skin changed color based on their emotions. Blue meant calm. Red meant anger. Gold meant happiness. Cole had learned to read their colors like a language, though he still made mistakes sometimes. Most Valorians were kind to him, but there was always a distance in their eyes. They saw him as curious, like a pet that had learned to speak. Some of the younger students were worse. They made jokes about humans being slow and weak. Cole ignored them. He had not come here to fight. He had come here to learn. The gardens were his favorite place on the whole planet. They stretched for miles, filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Some of the flowers sang when you touched them. Others glowed in the dark. There was a tree from a planet called Nexer that was over 10,000 years old. Cole liked to sit under it and imagine all the things it had seen. Tonight, he was studying a rare moss that could heal wounds. His professor had told him to write a report on it, and Cole wanted to do a good job. He was so focused on his reading that he almost did not notice the sounds coming from the other side of the garden at first. He thought it was just students playing around. The royal sector of the garden was nearby, but it was always guarded. No one could get in without permission. Cole went back to his reading. Then he heard a scream. It was high and sharp, filled with fear. Cole looked up from his tablet and listened. For a moment, there was silence. Then he heard voices, low and angry, speaking in a language he did not understand. Cole stood up slowly. His heart was beating fast. He knew he should call for help. He knew he should find a guard or a teacher. But something told him there was no time. He moved quietly through the garden, staying behind the tall bushes and strange trees. The sounds were coming from near the hidden transport pad, a place where ships could land without being seen. Cole had walked past it many times, but he had never seen anyone use it. When he reached the edge of the clearing, he stopped and looked through the leaves. There were 5 figures in dark armor. They were not Valorians. They were shorter and thicker, with gray skin and no glow at all. Cole recognized them from his studies. They were Crothans, a species known for working as mercenaries and criminals. In the middle of the group, held by 2 of the Crothans, was a young Valorian woman. Her skin was silver, flickering between white and pale blue. She was terrified. Cole could see it in her colors and in the way she struggled against her captors. Then he recognized her face from the news. Broadcasts and the portraits in the main hall of the Academy. It was Princess Alendra, the youngest daughter of Emperor Corvus. Cole felt his stomach drop. The princess was being kidnapped, right here, right now, and no one else was around to help. The royal guards were nowhere to be seen. Maybe they had been paid off. Maybe they had been killed. Cole did not know, and it did not matter. He looked around for a weapon. There was nothing but plants and decorations. Then he saw a ceremonial staff mounted on a nearby pillar. It was made of heavy metal, probably just for show, but it was better than nothing. Cole grabbed the staff and pulled it free. It was heavier than he expected, and he almost dropped it. His hands were shaking. He had never been in a real fight before. He had never even thrown a punch. But he thought about his father back on Earth, standing in the fields at dawn, working even when he was tired and sore. He thought about his mother, who had worked 2 jobs to save money for his education. They had sacrificed everything for him. They had taught him that doing the right thing was more important than being safe. Cole took a deep breath and stepped out of the bushes. The Crothans saw him immediately. The leader, a scarred figure with one eye, laughed out loud. "A human," he said in broken galactic common. "What are you going to do, little creature? Run back to your teachers?" Cole did not answer. He just ran straight at them, screaming at the top of his lungs and swinging the staff like a madman. The Crothans were caught off guard. They had planned for a quiet kidnapping, not a loud and chaotic fight. Cole swung the staff at the nearest mercenary and hit him hard in the shoulder. The Crothan stumbled and let go of the princess. The leader shouted orders, but Cole was already moving. He grabbed Alindra's hand and pulled her toward the garden maze. He knew those paths better than anyone. He had walked them 100 times while studying, memorizing every turn and every hiding spot. Behind them, the Crothans were cursing and chasing, but the maze was old and complex. The paths twisted and turned, doubling back on themselves. Cole led the princess through the darkness, past singing flowers and glowing vines, until the sounds of pursuit faded into silence. They stopped in a small grotto, hidden at the center of the maze. There was a tiny waterfall and a pool of clear water. Cole leaned against a rock, breathing hard. There was blood running down his forehead from a cut he did not remember getting. "Princess." Alindra stared at him with wide violet eyes. Her skin was slowly shifting from white to soft gold. "You are human," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Cole nodded, still trying to catch his breath. "Yes, why did you help me?" she asked. "You could have been killed. You should have run away." Cole thought about the question for a moment. He did not have a clever answer. He did not have a speech prepared. He just shrugged and told her the truth. "Because you needed help," he said. "And I was there." The princess studied him for a long moment, as if seeing him for the first time. Then, in the distance, they heard the sound of alarms and shouting. The royal guards had finally arrived. Cole smiled weakly. "I think we are safe now." But even as he said the words, he knew that his life had just changed forever. He had saved a princess, and nothing would ever be the same again. The days after Cole's visit to the palace were strange and difficult. Everywhere he went, people stared at him. Students who had never spoken to him before suddenly wanted to be his friend. Professors who had barely noticed him now invited him to special lectures and events. The whole academy was talking about the human who had saved the princess. Cole hated it. He tried to go back to his normal routine. He went to his classes, studied in the library, and ate his meals in the cafeteria. But nothing felt normal anymore. Every conversation seemed to circle back to that night in the gardens. Every glance seemed to carry some hidden meaning. Some students admired him. They called him brave and heroic. They asked him to tell the story again and again, wanting to hear every detail. Cole told them the truth, but the truth was not very exciting. He had grabbed his staff, run at some bad guys, and then run away with the princess. There was no grand battle. There was no clever plan. He had just acted on instinct and gotten lucky. Other students were not so kind. They whispered behind his back and gave him cold looks in the hallways. Cole heard some of the things they said. They called him an attention seeker. They said he had probably staged the whole thing to become famous. They said humans were too weak and stupid to really fight off trained mercenaries. Cole tried to ignore them. He reminded himself that he had not asked for any of this. He had not wanted to be a hero. He had just wanted to help someone who was in trouble. But the whispers hurt more than he wanted to admit. One afternoon, Cole was sitting alone in the botanical gardens, trying to study. He liked to return to the same spot where everything had started. It helped him remember that he had done the right thing. No matter what anyone said, a shadow fell across his tablet. Cole looked up and saw 3 Valorian students standing over him. He recognized them from his xenobiology class. They were part of a noble family, and they had always looked at Cole with contempt. The leader of the group was a tall male with skin the color of dark purple. His name was Vorath, and he had made it clear from the first day of class that he did not like humans. "So this is where the hero hides," Vorath said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Studying plants while the rest of us do real work." Cole closed his tablet and stood up slowly. He did not want to fight, but he was not going to sit there and be insulted. "I am not hiding," he said calmly. "I am studying, the same as everyone else." Vorath laughed. "You are not the same as everyone else. You are a human, a primitive creature from a backward planet. And yet you think you can walk among us as an equal?" Cole felt his jaw tighten. "I never claimed to be your equal. I just want to learn? Vorath stepped closer, his skin shifting to an angry red. "What can a human learn that we do not already know? Your species has been traveling the stars for barely a generation. My family has been noble for 10,000 years. You are nothing." The other 2 students laughed and nodded in agreement. Cole took a deep breath. He knew that fighting back would only make things worse. He knew that Vorath wanted him to react, to give him an excuse to cause trouble. So Cole did the hardest thing he could do. He stayed calm. "I saved your princess," Cole said quietly. "I did not do it for honor or glory. I did it because she needed help. If that makes me nothing in your eyes, then so be it. But I know what I did, and I know why I did it. And nothing you say can change that." Vorath's skin flickered between red and purple. For a moment, Cole thought he was going to attack. But then a voice rang out across the garden. "That is enough, Vorath." Everyone turned to see Princess Alindra walking toward them. She was dressed in simple clothes, without guards or servants, but her presence was unmistakable. Her skin glowed with a cold blue light that made Vorath and his friends step back. "Your Highness," Vorath said, bowing quickly. "You were just leaving," Alindra said firmly. "And you will not bother Cole Harrison again. If I hear that you have spoken to him with anything less than respect, I will inform my father. Do you understand?" Vorath's face twisted with anger, but he bowed again. "Yes, Your Highness." He turned and walked away, his friends following close behind. Cole watched them go, then let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. "Thank you," he said to the princess. "But you did not have to do that." Alindra smiled slightly. "I know, but I wanted to. Vorath has always been a bully. His family has wealth and power, but no honor. He's jealous of you because you have something he will never have. What is that?" "Courage." Alindra sat down on the bench next to Cole. "Real courage, the kind that does not think about rewards or consequences. The kind that simply acts because it is right. That is rare, Cole. Even among my people, it is rare." Cole sat down beside her. "I do not feel very courageous right now. I just feel tired. Everyone is watching me, judging me. Some people think I am a hero. Others think I am a fraud. I do not know how to handle it." Alindra nodded slowly. "Fame is a burden. I have lived with it my whole life. When you are royal, everyone has an opinion about you. Everyone thinks they know who you are. But they do not know the real you. They only see what they want to see." Cole looked at her. How do you deal with it? I remind myself that their opinions do not define me. Only my actions define me. Only my choices matter. Alindra turned to face him. You made a choice that night in the gardens. You chose to help me when you could have run away. That choice is who you are. Not the whispers. Not the rumors. Just that single moment when you decided to do the right thing. Cole thought about her words. They made sense, but they did not make the burden feel any lighter. There is something else you should know, Alindra said. The man who tried to kidnap me, Zek Torvin, has not given up. My sources tell me he is spreading rumors about you. He's telling people that you staged the attack to gain favor with the royal family. Some nobles believe him. Cole felt his stomach drop. Why would anyone believe that? Because they want to believe it. They do not like the idea of a human saving a Valorian princess. It makes them uncomfortable. It challenges their view of the world. Alindra reached out and touched his hand gently. But do not worry. The truth always comes out eventually. And when it does, your enemies will be exposed for what they are. Cole nodded, but he could not shake the feeling of dread in his chest. He had made a powerful enemy, and that enemy was working against him from the shadows. What should I do? He asked. Alindra stood up and looked down at him with those calm violet eyes. Keep being who you are, she said. Keep studying. Keep learning. Keep doing the right thing, even when it is hard. That is the only way to win against people like Jack Torvin. Not with weapons or politics, but with truth and honor. She turned and walked away, leaving Cole alone in the gardens with his thoughts. He sat there for a long time, watching the twin suns move across the sky. He thought about his home on Earth, his parents, his simple life before all of this. He wondered if he would ever be able to go back to that life, or if he was trapped in this new world of politics and danger forever. But deep down, he knew the answer. He had made his choice that night in the gardens, and now he had to live with the consequences, whatever they might be. Cole picked up his tablet and went back to studying. It was the only thing he knew how to do. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough. The rumors grew worse over the following weeks. What had started as whispers became loud accusations. Noble families who had never liked humans began speaking openly against Cole. They said he was a liar. They said he had paid the mercenaries to stage the kidnapping. They said humans were dangerous and should not be trusted. Ambassador Linda Morris, the human diplomatic representative on Valoria, called Cole to her office. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 20 years building relationships between Earth and the alien worlds. Now those relationships were being threatened by a conspiracy of lies. "This is serious, Cole," she said, sitting behind her desk with her hands folded. "Zek Torvin is feeding information to the noble houses. He has connections we did not know about. Some very powerful people are starting to believe his story." Cole sat across from her, feeling like a child being scolded. "But it is not true. None of it is true. I know that. You know that. The princess knows that. But politics does not care about truth. Politics cares about power and perception." Linda leaned forward. "I think you should go home. Back to Earth, at least until this blows over." Cole shook his head. "No. If I run away now, everyone will think I am guilty. They will say I fled because I could not face the accusations. And if you stay, you might face worse than accusations." Linda's voice was soft but firm. "These noble families have power you cannot imagine. They could make your life very difficult. They could even have you arrested on false charges." Cole thought about it. He thought about his peaceful life back in Nebraska, his parents, his dreams of becoming a teacher. He could go home and forget all of this. He could let someone else deal with the politics and the danger. But then he thought about Princess Alindra. He thought about the look in her eyes when she thanked him, He thought about the honor she had promised him, the children who would carry his name. If he ran away now, he would be betraying everything he had stood for that night in the gardens. "I cannot leave," he said finally. "Not like this. I have to clear my name." Linda sighed and rubbed her temples. "I was afraid you would say that. You are stubborn, Cole, just like your father." Cole blinked in surprise. "You know my father?" "I knew him a long time ago, before I became an ambassador. We grew up in the same town." Linda smiled slightly. "He was stubborn too. Never backed down from a fight, even when he should have. I see you are the same way." Cole did not know what to say. He had never known that his father had a connection to the Galactic Diplomatic Service. There was so much he still did not know about his own family. Linda stood up and walked to the window. "If you are going to stay, then we need a plan. You cannot just wait for the truth to come out on its own. Zek Torvin is too clever for that. He will bury the truth under mountains of lies. What do you suggest?" "You need to speak directly to the Emperor. If you can convince him of your innocence, the noble houses will have to back down. They may not like you, but they will not openly oppose the Emperor." Cole felt his heart pound in his chest. "The Emperor? How am I supposed to get an audience with the Emperor?" "You ask." Linda turned back to face him. "You are a free citizen of the galactic community. You have the right to request an audience with any head of state. It does not mean he will agree to see you, but you have the right to ask." It sounded impossible. Cole was just a student, a nobody from a small planet. Why would the most powerful ruler in the Empire agree to meet with him? But he had no other options. He had to try. The next day, Cole submitted a formal request for an audience with Emperor Kovus. He expected to be rejected immediately. Instead, 3 days later, he received a message saying that his request had been granted. The Emperor would see him in 1 week. Cole spent that week preparing. He read everything he could about Valorian court customs and protocols. He practiced what he was going to say in front of his mirror until the words felt natural. Ambassador Linda helped him with the formal parts, teaching him how to bow and when to speak and when to stay silent. When the day finally came, Cole was terrified. His hands were shaking as he dressed in his best clothes. His mouth was dry as he walked through the grand halls of the palace. His heart was pounding as he entered the throne room and saw hundreds of nobles and advisors watching him with cold eyes. Emperor Corvus sat on a massive throne at the far end of the room. He was ancient by Valorian standards, with skin the color of deep gold and eyes that seemed to see through everything. He did not smile as Cole approached. He did not frown either. He simply watched. Cole stopped at the proper distance and bowed deeply, just as Linda had taught him. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Thank you for granting me this audience." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Rise, Cole Harrison. You have come to defend yourself against serious accusations. I will hear what you have to say." Cole stood up and looked directly at the Emperor. He could feel the eyes of every noble in the room burning into his back. He could hear the whispers and the muttering, but he did not let it stop him. "Your Majesty, I did not stage the kidnapping of Princess Alindra. I did not pay mercenaries to attack her. I did not plan any of this for fame or reward." Cole paused and took a breath. "I was studying alone in the gardens when I heard a scream. I saw your daughter being dragged toward a hidden transport. I did not think about politics or honor or what people would say. I just knew that someone was in trouble and I had to help." The throne room was silent. Cole continued, "I am not a hero. I am not brave or strong or special. I am just a student from Earth who wants to learn about the galaxy. I came to Valoria to study, not to get involved in royal politics. But when I saw the princess in danger, I could not walk away. I could not pretend I did not see. Cole lowered his head. If my presence here causes problems for your empire, I will leave. But I will not accept the lies about who I am. I will not let criminals like Jack Torvin destroy my name with false accusations. I did the right thing that night, and I would do it again. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Emperor studied Cole with those ancient, golden eyes. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that filled the throne room. The nobles looked at each other in confusion. No one knew what to make of it. "You have courage, human," the Emperor said, still chuckling. "More courage than many who call themselves noble. You stand before the most powerful court in the galaxy, surrounded by enemies, and you speak plainly without fear." He leaned forward on his throne. "My daughter told me about you. She said you were different from other humans. She said you had something rare." The Emperor nodded slowly. "I see now that she was right." He raised his hand, and the room fell completely silent. "I declare that Cole Harrison is innocent of all accusations. The rumors against him are lies spread by enemies of the Empire. Anyone who continues to spread these lies will face my displeasure." The nobles bowed their heads, not daring to argue. Cole felt a wave of relief wash over him, so strong that he almost collapsed. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he whispered. The Emperor smiled for the first time. "Do not thank me, Cole Harrison. Thank yourself. You earned this with your honesty and your courage. My daughter chose well when she decided to honor you." Cole bowed again, deeper than before. When he stood up, he saw Princess Alindra standing at the edge of the throne room, her skin glowing with warm, golden light. She was smiling at him, and in that moment, Cole knew that everything was going to be all right. He had faced the most powerful court in the galaxy, and he had won. The royal guards surrounded the grotto within minutes. They came with weapons drawn and armor shining under the light of the moons. When they saw Princess Alindra sitting safely by the pool, their captain dropped to one knee and lowered his head. "Your Highness," he said, his voice tight with fear and relief. "We searched everywhere. The attackers disabled our communications. We did not know you were in danger until we heard the alarms." Alindra stood up slowly. Her skin had returned to its natural silver glow, though Cole could still see traces of gold at the edges. She looked at the captain with calm eyes. "This human saved me," she said, pointing at Cole. "He fought the kidnappers alone and brought me to safety. You will treat him with respect." The guards turned to look at Cole. He was still sitting on the ground, bleeding from his forehead and holding the ceremonial staff across his knees. He probably looked terrible. He definitely felt terrible. His whole body was shaking from the fading adrenaline. The captain walked over to him and offered his hand. Cole took it and let the guard pull him to his feet. "What is your name, human?" the captain asked. "Cole Harrison," he said. "I am a student at the academy, xenobiology." The captain nodded slowly. "You have done a great thing tonight, Cole Harrison. The Emperor will hear of this." Cole wanted to say that he did not need any rewards or attention. He wanted to go back to his room and sleep for about a week. But before he could speak, more guards arrived, followed by medical staff and officials in fancy robes. The grotto became crowded and loud. A medic cleaned the cut on Cole's forehead and wrapped it in a bandage. Another official asked him questions about what he had seen and heard. Cole answered as best he could, but everything was becoming blurry. He was exhausted. Finally, someone led him away from the grotto and back toward the academy buildings. Cole walked in a daze, barely aware of where he was going. He remembered reaching his small dormitory room. He remembered falling onto his bed. Then everything went dark. When he woke up, sunlight was streaming through his window. Cole sat up slowly and looked around. His room was the same as always. Small bed, small desk, small window looking out at the crystal towers of the academy. For a moment, he wondered if last night had been a dream. Then he touched the bandage on his forehead and knew it was real. Cole got up and went to the bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked tired and pale, but otherwise normal. Just a regular human student who had somehow fought off alien mercenaries and saved a princess. He laughed at himself. It sounded crazy when he thought about it. There was a knock at his door. Cole opened it and found a Valorian woman in formal robes standing outside. She was tall and elegant, with skin the color of pale blue ice. "Cole Harrison?" she asked. "Yes. I am Advisor Selene. The princess has requested your presence at the royal palace. A transport will take you there within the hour. Please dress appropriately." Cole stared at her. "The palace? Why?" Advisor Selene smiled slightly. "The princess wishes to thank you properly. It is a great honor. Do not be late." She turned and walked away before Cole could ask any more questions. Cole closed the door and stood in his room, trying to process what was happening. He had never been to the royal palace. He had never even been close to it. The palace was where the emperor lived, along with his family and his court. It was the center of power for the entire Valorian Empire. And now Cole was invited there because he had saved the princess. He opened his closet and looked at his clothes. He did not own anything fancy. He had some clean pants and a white shirt that his mother had packed for him before he left Earth. He put them on and tried to make himself look presentable. An hour later, a sleek silver transport arrived outside his dormitory. Cole climbed inside and was taken across the city to the royal palace. The palace was enormous, built from white stone and crystal that sparkled in the sunlight. It sat on a hill overlooking the rest of the capital, surrounded by gardens and fountains. Guards escorted Cole through the main gates and into a grand entrance hall. The ceiling was so high that he could barely see it. The walls were covered with paintings and tapestries showing the history of the Valorian Empire. Cole felt very small and very out of place. Advisor Selene met him at the entrance and led him through a series of hallways until they reached a private reception room. Inside, Princess Alindra was waiting. She looked different in the daylight. Her silver skin glowed softly, and she wore a simple white dress instead of the formal robes Cole had seen in pictures. She smiled when she saw him. "Cole Harrison," she said. "Thank you for coming." Cole bowed awkwardly. He was not sure what the proper greeting was. "Your Highness." Alindra laughed gently. "Please, there is no need for such formality. You saved my life. That makes us equals in the eyes of tradition." Cole did not know how to respond to that. He just stood there, feeling awkward and nervous. The princess gestured for him to sit down. They sat across from each other on soft cushions, with a low table between them. A servant brought tea in delicate crystal cups. "I wanted to thank you properly," Alindra said. "What you did last night was very brave. Most people would have run away. Most people would have called for help and hidden. But you charged in alone, with nothing but a ceremonial staff against 5 armed mercenaries." Cole shrugged. "I did not really think about it. I just saw that you were in trouble and I wanted to help." "That is exactly what makes it remarkable," Alindra said. "You acted without thinking of yourself. You risked your life for a stranger. That is rare, Cole Harrison, even among my own people." She paused and looked at him with those violet eyes. "Do you know who those mercenaries were?" Cole shook his head. "Crothans, I think. I recognized them from my studies. Yes, they work for a man named Zek Torvin. He is a criminal who has been trying to kidnap members of the royal family for years. He wants ransom money to fund his operations. Last night was the closest he has ever come to succeeding." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. "Is he still out there?" "Yes. He escaped before the guards could catch him. But that is not your concern. My father has people looking for him. Alindra leaned forward slightly. What concerns me is how I can repay you. You do not need to repay me, Cole said quickly. I did not do it for a reward. I know. That is why the debt is so great. Alindra's skin shifted to a warm golden color. In Valorian culture, we take debts of honor very seriously. When someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never truly be repaid. But we try. We try to honor them in ways that will last forever. Cole was starting to feel uncomfortable. I really do not need anything. I am just a student. I just want to finish my studies and go home. Alindra smiled sadly. You may want that, but the galaxy will not let you have it. News of what you did has already spread across the Empire. Everyone knows that a human student saved the princess. You are famous now, Cole Harrison. Whether you like it or not. Cole groaned and put his head in his hands. I was afraid of that. Do not worry, Alindra said gently. Fame fades, but honor lasts forever. And I intend to honor you in a way that our people will remember for generations. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the gardens below. When the time comes for me to have children, she said, I will name them after you. It is the highest tribute a Valorian can give to someone who has saved their life. Your name will become part of the royal bloodline, and your courage will be remembered for as long as the Empire exists. Cole stared at her in shock. He did not know what to say. He did not know what to feel. All he had done was grab a staff and run at some bad guys. He had not expected any of this, but looking at the princess standing in the golden light, her skin glowing with gratitude and warmth, Cole understood that he had done something bigger than himself. He had built a bridge between two worlds, and that bridge would stand long after he was gone. Thank you, he said quietly. I do not know if I deserve such an honor, but thank you. Alindra turned and smiled at him. You deserve more than you know, Cole Harrison. Much more. 15 years had passed since that day in the throne room. Cole Harrison was no longer a young student, nervous and unsure of his place in the galaxy. He was now Professor Cole Harrison, one of the most respected xenobiologists on Earth. He lived in a small house near the university where he taught. His office was filled with books and specimens from a dozen different worlds. Students came from all over the planet to learn from him. To hear his lectures about alien biology and the wonders of the galaxy, Cole enjoyed his quiet life. He had never married, never had children of his own. His work was his family, and his students were like his kids. He spent his days teaching and his evenings writing papers about the things he had learned during his years on Valoria. Sometimes, reporters would come to interview him about the famous incident. They wanted to hear about the night he saved Princess Alindra. Cole always told them the same thing. He was just in the right place at the right time. Anyone would have done the same. He was not a hero, but deep down, he knew that was not entirely true. He had made a choice that night, a choice that most people would not have made. And that choice had changed the course of history in ways both big and small. One autumn afternoon, Cole was grading papers in his office when his phone rang. He picked it up and heard a familiar voice on the other end. Professor Harrison? This is Ambassador Linda Morris. Cole smiled. Linda had retired from the diplomatic service 5 years ago, but they still kept in touch. She sent him letters every few months, updating him on galactic politics and asking about his health. Linda, it is good to hear from you. How are things? Complicated, as always. Linda paused. Cole, I have news. Big news. Are you sitting down? Cole laughed. I am always sitting down these days. My knees are not what they used to be. Queen Alindra has given birth. Twins. A boy and a girl. Cole felt his breath catch in his throat. Queen Alindra. He still thought of her as the young princess he had rescued all those years ago. But she was queen now, had been for nearly a decade since her father passed away. And now she had children. "That is wonderful news," he said softly. "I am happy for her. There is more." Linda's voice was warm. "She named them after you, Cole, just like she promised. The boy is called Koleth and the girl is called Colleen. They will carry your name in the royal bloodline forever." Cole was silent for a long moment. He did not know what to say. He had always known this day would come, but hearing it now, after so many years, made it feel real in a way it never had before. She remembered. He whispered. Of course she remembered. How could she forget? Linda laughed gently. "She has also invited you to Valoria for the naming ceremony. It is a great honor, Cole. Only family and close friends are invited. And she considers you both." Cole looked around his small office, at the books and papers and artifacts of his quiet life. He had not left Earth in over 10 years. He had not been to Valoria since he graduated from the academy. Part of him wanted to stay here, safe and comfortable, far from the politics and dangers of the Galactic Empire. But another part of him, the part that had grabbed a ceremonial staff and charged at mercenaries in the dark, knew he had to go. "When is the ceremony?" he asked. 3 weeks from now. I can arrange transport if you want." Cole took a deep breath. "Do it. I will be there." 3 weeks later, Cole stood on the surface of Valoria for the first time in 15 years. The twin suns still shone with the same golden light. The crystal towers of the capital still sparkled against the purple sky. But everything else had changed. The city was bigger now, more modern. New buildings had risen where old ones had stood. The streets were filled with people from dozens of different species, living and working together. Cole saw humans walking beside Valorians, Crothans trading with merchants from distant worlds. The galaxy had changed, and Valoria had changed with it. A royal transport took Cole to the palace. The guards recognized his name and treated him with deep respect. They called him Guardian of the Bloodline, a title he had never asked for, but had been given anyway. Queen Elendra met him at the entrance to the private gardens. She was older now, with fine lines around her eyes and silver threads in her hair. But her skin still glowed with that soft silver light, and her eyes were still the same shade of violet he remembered. "Cole Harrison," she said, smiling warmly. "You came." Cole bowed slightly, then straightened up and smiled back. "I had to. An old friend invited me." Elendra laughed and embraced him. It was not a formal greeting, not the kind a queen would give to a commoner. It was the hug of someone who had shared something important, something that could never be forgotten. "Come," she said, taking his hand. "I want you to meet them." She led him through the gardens to a quiet pavilion overlooking a crystal lake. Inside, 2 nursemaids were watching over a pair of cribs. Cole approached slowly, his heart pounding with emotion. The twins were beautiful. The boy, Koleth, had skin the color of pale gold, and he looked up at Cole with curious blue eyes. The girl, Colleen, had silver skin like her mother, and she was sleeping peacefully, her tiny hands curled into fists. Cole stared at them for a long time. These children would grow up to be royalty. They would rule planets and make decisions that affected billions of lives. And they would carry his name, a simple name from a small town on Earth, as part of their identity forever. "They are perfect," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Elendra stood beside him, watching the children with a mother's love. "They will know your story, Cole. They will know what you did for me and why their names mean what they mean. They will grow up knowing that courage is not about strength or power. It is about doing the right thing, even when it is hard." Cole nodded slowly. He reached down and touched Koleth's tiny hand. The baby grabbed his finger and held on tight. "I never expected any of this," Cole said quietly. "When I ran into those gardens that night, I was not thinking about the future. I was just thinking about helping someone who needed help. I know. Alindra placed her hand on his shoulder. That is why it matters. That is why we remember. Because you did not do it for a reward. You did it because it was right. The naming ceremony took place the next day in the great hall of the palace. Thousands of guests attended, including nobles, ambassadors, and leaders from across the galaxy. Cole stood at the front of the hall, beside the queen and her husband, as the twins were formally presented to the Empire. When the ceremony was over, the Emperor's herald read out the names and their meanings. He explained how Coleth and Colleen were named in honor of Cole Harrison, a human who had saved the Queen's life when she was young. He spoke of courage, of honor, of the bonds that could form between different species when they chose to help each other, instead of fear each other. The crowd listened in silence. When the herald finished, they applauded. It was not a polite applause, not the kind you give because you are expected to. It was genuine, heartfelt, full of respect. Cole stood there, tears running down his face, and realized that his small act of bravery had become something much larger. It had become a symbol, a story that would be told for generations. It had become proof that humans belonged among the stars, not as primitives or curiosities, but as equals. After the ceremony, Cole walked through the gardens one last time. He found the grotto where he had hidden with Alindra all those years ago. The waterfall still flowed. The pool still sparkled in the moonlight. He sat down on the same rock where he had sat that night, bleeding and scared, not knowing what the future would bring. Now he knew. And it was better than anything he could have imagined. Cole looked up at the twin moons of Valoria and smiled. "Thank you," he whispered to no one in particular. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." Somewhere in the palace, a baby cried. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans and aliens were learning to work together. And somewhere in the history books of the future, a simple name from Earth was written alongside the names of emperors and queens. Cole Harrison had saved a princess. And in return, she had given him something far greater than he could ever have asked for. She had given him a legacy among the stars.